Well, no better way to start off the morning than with a blueberry yogurt and a good talk show. Hello, everybody. Welcome here to Nnscra Radio as we are here live on the 1620 WCBM Nelson, New York Studios booth. And we are getting ready now to present you with Championship Weekend, if you will. 4 drivers going to be battling it out at Homestead-Miami Speedway for the Sprint Cup Series Championship here in 2015. A number of Cinderella stories, if you will. We'll be getting down to it, but this is going to be a special week for Nnscra Radio. We'll be giving you coverage hopefully every morning, if not most mornings. We'll also be having some special guests on, giving opinions as we pretty much try and set the stage leading into the championship weekend at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We may even branch off and talk a little bit about the Camping World Truck Series, even though it kind of looks like Eric Jones has got that championship wrapped up, as well as the battle between Chris Buescher and the former Xfinity Series champion Chase Elliott, and they'll be bringing that battle into Homestead-Miami Speedway as well. But we're also going to be giving most of our coverage to the Final Four for the championship of the Sprint Cup Series here in 2015. Now, for those of you that do not know, the Phoenix race last night was actually scheduled to be an afternoon race, but due to rain in Phoenix, go figure, it's been a crazy, crazy chase we've had, and Mother Nature has certainly played her part into it. We didn't get going until somewhere around 9 o'clock, I think it's about when we got the green flag. And we got halfway through the race, and we got hit with a cell of rain, and NASCAR called the race. Dale Earnhardt Jr., due to scoring areas and everything based off of pit road, based on from a pit stall to the start-finish line, or a pit stall ahead of the start-finish line to the end of pit road. He ended up coming out as the leader, as there was a cycle of green flag pit stops that were beginning at the time before there was a caution, a wreck between Joey Gase and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. takes the win, his third of the season, his first of the season at a non-restrictor plate track. So very, very interesting, and that was what pretty much iced it and clinched it for 4 drivers, and what basically caused 4 drivers to be eliminated from the championship hunt. If I'm perfectly honest, there are 3 of them who really, they had to dig themselves out of such a big hole. It was a must-win situation, and in all honesty, with the possible exception of Kurt Busch, the other 2, Joey Logano, really didn't get up to the front. He seemed to be constantly behind Kevin Harvick, which is not what was going to work for him. And then we never really saw much of Brad Keselowski up at the front. I know they were saying that the car was starting to get better. Paul Wolfe was stating that just before the rain delay and the calling of the race, that they were starting to get a little bit better. But I'm not really certain if Kurt, nor Brad, nor Joey, in all honesty, could have gotten up there and won that thing to move their way into the next round. The one that I would question is Carl Edwards. The only thing is, based off of what happened before that rain delay caused the race to end, Carl Edwards had just gotten the free pass as the lucky dog recipient. Martin Truex Jr. had taken the wave around. So they were both right near each other. They were separated by 5 points. But the end result, at the end of the night, Jeff Gordon, with his win at Martinsville, moves into the Final Four, joined by Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Kevin Harvick. Now, in all honesty, there's one driver that I would have liked to see in place of another, and that would have been Carl Edwards in place of Kevin Harvick. Not saying that Kevin Harvick doesn't deserve the championship, I just didn't really want him to have a shot at winning this season since he's already won it last season. I like to see new champions if possible. But we're going to be, talking about all 4 of these drivers that have made it into the hunt and everything. But one thing that I do need to point out is I thought this was actually Martin Truex Jr.'s first chase for the championship. Amazingly enough, it's not. I just was looking back through old point stands and everything. Martin Truex Jr. actually did make the chase back in 2012. He finished 11th out of 12 chase drivers, but he did make the chase. So this is actually his second time in the chase for the championship, but it's the closest he's ever been to getting a championship. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the closest also that Furniture Row Racing has ever been to getting a championship. But let's analyze, if you will, the seasons that have been had by these 4 drivers up and to this point heading into Homestead. We'll first talk about Jeff Gordon. And we're going to also talk about their possible chances heading into Homestead. Alright, so let's first analyze the driver of the 24. Obviously, this is his last season. He'd love to be able to win his 5th championship of his career in his very last season. Martinsville was a perfect race for him to have at the timing that it was, being a challenger round race, because then that gave him the opportunity at a track that he's obviously very good at to have an opportunity to win. Yes, a lot of things fell his way, with Joey Logano getting taken out, with a lot of different wrecks that took place, taking out a lot of top contenders, like Kurt Busch, like Denny Hamlin. However, Jeff Gordon was able to prevail. He was able to stay out of trouble, moves into the final round. But here's my big problem. Jeff Gordon, he ran well at Texas. He ran well at Phoenix. He finished well at Phoenix. But as we clearly saw from last season at Homestead-Miami, Ryan Newman had a great race. He'd never won a race that entire season. He had a great race. He'd made his way to the Final Four through consistency, but he finished second to another Chase driver in Kevin Harvick, who won the race. You gotta have, in my opinion, a race-winning car that's going to be able to be out in front to win the championship based on this new Chase system that we've got. You cannot rely on a car that's going to finish top 5 for you. It's got to win the race. Jeff Gordon started out the season with a top 10 car. They've started to step it up. He ran well at Texas. He ran well at Phoenix, had a top 5 car. Car wasn't the best, but they worked on it. They made it better. They're saying that they were trying to use Texas and Phoenix to get themselves ready for Homestead. But up to this point, they still only have a top 5 car, if the performances from Texas and Phoenix mean anything. They need a race-winning car, especially heading into Homestead, where Kevin Harvick has already won a championship by winning the race, and that was last season. That's got to be the trump card, that they have a race-winning car. And we're going to see if they're going to have a race-winning car, a car that can stay out in front, can be out in front at Homestead-Miami. If it's not, if we see Jeff Gordon running consistently for the first half in the top 5, maybe. If he's running 5th through 10th, though, I think you write Jeff Gordon off as being a 5-time champion of the Sprint Cup Series. If we look at Jeff Gordon's numbers heading to Homestead-Miami Speedway, let's actually look for the past 2 years, his past 2 starts. Jeff Gordon, a 10th place finish. That's not good news if you're talking about someone that needs to be race-winning caliber at this track. He finishes consistently top 10, but he has not been a dominating win eligible driver. He's led 161 laps. He had a pole position there. If we look since the track opened up in 1999, Jeff Gordon has made 16 starts, still an average finish of 10th place. 1 win, 7 top 5s, 12 top 10s. He's also had a DNF at that track, but that's what really hurts the most is, you look in the past 2 years, okay, so he's finished top 10 last 2 times that he's been at Homestead-Miami, okay. But in his career, he's finished an average of 10th place. That is not good heading into a race, like I said, where you basically have to win to have a shot at the championship. So then let's turn it over to a guy that, to me, heading into this thing, is the favorite heading in. And honestly, I wish he wasn't. But I want people to understand, I'm not bashing Kevin Harvick. I'm simply stating that I personally don't want him to win. There is a vast chasm between not wanting a driver to win and saying that they're not deserving of the championship. I completely feel that Kevin Harvick is deserving of the championship. I mean, he's had an unbelievable season. Just look at his stats. We've run a total of 35 races so far. 22 of those races he has finished inside the top of the top 5. 27 of them inside the top 10. 3 trips to victory lane, 3 pole positions. There's no doubt about it. Kevin Harvick's had a great season, and he is worthy of winning a second championship. I personally, however, would like to see somebody different this year. Okay, there is a difference. I'm not saying Kevin Harvick should not win it. I'm saying I'm hoping he doesn't, that somebody else does, but I'm not saying that Kevin Harvick is not worthy of winning it, because obviously, if anybody does that, then they're absolutely stupid. They've already committed themselves to looking like a fool based on the season Kevin Harvick has had. But go into Kevin Harvick. He's already been here in this situation before. He's already been in the situation where he has to come into Homestead-Miami Speedway. He has to win to take the championship. And he's going to have chasers breathing down his neck, like Ryan Newman did last year. The thing that stood out for me for Kevin Harvick is you take a look at what happened at Texas. Kevin Harvick not as much of a player in that race, but we go to Phoenix, a track where he's very well known to be very good at, and what happens? Kevin Harvick pretty much dominates that race. The way that the rain played out with the green flag pit stops and everything, that's what hurt him. He finished second place to Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he was race-winning caliber. That's the mentality. That's the outlook you got to give your competitors heading into a championship race, a race where you basically have to win the championship to make sure your other competitors are not going to be able to take that championship away from you. Kevin Harvick right now is at the best spot possible of any of the drivers battling for this championship. For Kevin Harvick, things just get better. Take a look at his average finish since 2013. The last two starts he's had, average finish of 5th place, including one victory. Both his starts since 2013 have been inside of the top 10. He also, just to throw this out there though, has only led 62 laps there. There are other drivers in the past two starts at Homestead that have led more laps than that, have actually led over 100 laps. Jeff Gordon is one of them, Matt Kenseth, and Denny Hamlin. We take a look, though, at the average finish. Since the track opened in 1999, Kevin Harvick has had 14 starts at that track. Average finish of 7th place. In 14 starts, average finish of 7th place. He's never DNF'd there. Every one of his 14 races, he's finished in the top 20. 12 of those times were inside the top 10. 6 of those times were inside of the top 5. He only has one victory, however, and that came last season, 2014. If you look at the stats since 1999, Kevin Harvick, out of active drivers, basically really has the highest average finish. There's only one other driver ahead of him, that's Brendan Gaughan, a 6th place average finish, but that's only in one race that he took part in. So Kevin Harvick technically is the guy that has the best average finish since the track opened up in his starts. And that's only 2 starts less than Jeff Gordon. Keep that in mind as well, at Homestead. Now, in those 14 starts, he has led a total of 190 laps. Alright? So keep that in mind. That's about roughly 130 laps more than what he's led in the last 2 years. That's about a 2-to-1 difference. So, from my standpoint, Kevin Harvick has, in the last 2 years, not been one to be out there in front for a majority of the race at Homestead. Whether it's strategy or not, I don't know. Whether it's that his car just got better as the night went on in 2014, I don't know either. However, he was able to close out the deal last year. Alright, now let's jump over to the next driver, Kyle Busch. And there's been a lot of controversy. I've seen Facebook, I've seen Twitter, I've seen social media blow up with the fact that Kyle Busch made the Final Four. The argument being made, Kyle Busch, after missing 11 starts this season, should not be battling for the championship. Well, people, take a look at his stats. Alright, take a look at his stats since he came back. Alright, he missed the first 11 races, which means take 11 away from 35. He's made 24 starts. In those 24 starts, he has a pole position, 4 victories, 11 top 5s, 15 top 10s. You can't tell me this guy is not championship-worthy caliber. There's no way. And Kyle Busch, this chase, has been an under-the-radar driver, and I never thought I would actually say that of Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch always seems to, when you say the name Kyle Busch, the first thing you think of is in-your-face, aggressive-style driver. Not during this chase. Kyle Busch has kind of been the Ryan Newman of 2014 here in 2015. He's been consistent with his finishes, and been able to use that consistency to move himself into the next round, into the next round, into the next round. Kyle Busch is the only hope right now for Joe Gibbs Racing, who had 4 drivers in the hunt for the championship. Denny Hamlin got eliminated, Matt Kenseth got eliminated, Carl Edwards just recently eliminated. Kyle Busch, the last guy to try and do it. As a matter of fact, too, if I'm not mistaken, this would actually be, if Kyle Busch could close the deal, it'd be Toyota's very first championship. But Kyle Busch, if I look at the stats here and I look at who's going to be the Ryan Newman, if you will, for Kevin Harvick at Homestead, the guy that's going to be trying to hunt him down, being the biggest adversary for Kevin Harvick, I'd have to go with Kyle Busch. Because let's take a look at the numbers here, though. This is where it really gets interesting for Kyle Busch. This is going to be a very telling race for Kyle. People say Kyle Busch, he can go to any track and he can adapt and be a contender. Well, Homestead hasn't exactly been that kind of a track for that particular driver. In his last 2 starts, Kyle Busch has an average finish of 23rd place. Only 1 finish inside the top 10 of those 2 starts. He hasn't DNF'd, but he ended up finishing 7th and 39th in those 2 races. That's what really killed his average finish. However, if we take a look at his average finishes since 1999, since the track opened, they're not particularly that much better. Looking here for Kyle Busch, in 10 starts at Homestead-Miami Speedway, an average finish still of 23rd place. Only 1 top 5 finish. 3 top 10s. He has led 237 laps, which is a key factor for me in why I think he's going to be a contender for Kevin Harvick, in the fact that he's able to get to the front. However, that team's got to close out the deal with a good finish. 23rd place average finish. Now, to me, this can mean one of 2 things. 1, they dominate the race and something befalls them mechanically, or they dominate the race and something befalls them with over-aggressiveness. With the mentality that Kyle Busch has come into this chase with so far, with the consistency and not really getting up there to fight for the win, that, to me, shows that his mentality is in championship mode, and that may be the key factor into helping him to be consistent enough to close out the deal here at Homestead, rather than wrecking in the attempt or having a mechanical failure in the attempt. We're going to have to see how it plays out. But does Kyle Busch deserve to be in this Final Four? You better believe he does. You better believe he does. You know, let's take and use for instance here. I'm just going to make a baseball analogy. Yoenis Cespedes, he's an outfielder, was with the Tigers for half the season, and then he was traded to the New York Mets. However, he was awarded the Gold Glove Award, which is for Defensive Player of the Year for his position, as a Detroit Tiger. But wait a minute, whoa, how can that be? He ended the season as a Met. How in the world can he be eligible for a Gold Glove in a different league, the American League? That's ridiculous. It's so unfair. Well, if the guy did that well in the American League with that team, and then followed it up with even better defense in the National League, of course he's worthy to be eligible for that award. Same thing for Kyle Busch. I mean, did people think Kyle Busch purposely turned into that inside wall at Daytona so that way he could break his leg, break his ankle, miss some races, and then come back and say, "Ha, I don't have to run as many races as you guys. But look at me, I'm chase eligible, I'm championship eligible." Absolutely not. To me, Kyle Busch well-deserved that slot in the chase, and he has well-deserved being in the Final Four. If Kyle Busch, put it this way, okay, we're not even going to argue the fact that he had 11 fewer starts than everybody else. We're going to argue the fact that, based on consistency, if Kyle Busch does not deserve to be in the Final Four for the championship, well then, doggone it, Ryan Newman didn't deserve to be in the battle for the championship last year at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And I know a lot of people were rooting for Newman in that race. So you can't call out Kyle Busch on that and not throw Ryan Newman last season into the equation, because to me, both of them are mirror images of each other, completely null and void the fact that Kyle Busch did not make the first 11 starts of the season. Keep in mind, too, let's also throw out there that Kyle Busch had to do it all on his own. Didn't matter that Eric Jones, David Reagan, Matt Crafton, didn't matter that they were filling in the 18 car. They were getting owner points, not driver points. Kyle Busch received absolutely zero benefit from those fill-in drivers being there. He didn't come in and say, all right, I'll take over your points. He started from the bottom and worked his way up into the top 30. Let's move on to what I believe is the sleeper in this thing, and the big question mark. Martin Truex Jr., his second chase for the championship, which, to me, it was surprising. As the seasons went on, with Jimmy Johnson winning championships, my interest of NASCAR waned a little bit to the fact that I wasn't really keeping up week after week. And so therefore, I had forgotten that Martin Truex Jr. had already been in a chase for the championship. And that was back, I believe I said at the top of the program, back in 2012. I could look for confirmation. Look at right now, Martin Truex Jr., yes, it was 2012. He finished 11th out of the 12 chase drivers. But Martin Truex Jr., this is very interesting for me with Truex, in the fact that I can't really throw him into the same ring with the 2014 Ryan Newman, 2015 Kyle Busch based on consistency, because of the fact that Martin Truex Jr., in all honesty, in the last two rounds, has just barely squeaked his way in. Let's be honest, we do not know for certain that Carl Edwards would not have been able to make up those 5 points had the race not been delayed and called on account of the weather last night at Phoenix. We don't know that. He could very well have. And if Carl Edwards had made it in, I'm telling you what, Carl Edwards, to me, would have been the favorite heading in, regardless of Kevin Harvick's performance last season. Carl Edwards has got the numbers. But regardless, we're talking about Truex here. Let's take a look at the numbers. Martin Truex Jr. In his last 2 starts here, Martin Truex Jr. has an average finish of 10th place. One of those finishes was inside the top 10. Both those finishes inside the top 20. But here's the telling tale for me why he is not in the same realm as Kyle Busch this season. 0 laps led. Never took a turn at the front. That, to me, is huge. His average starting position for those 2 starts was 9th place, so he qualified inside of the top 10. However, never got his car to the front. And like I said, like Kevin Harvick proved last year, you gotta have a car that's going to be up front, dominating, going to be able to hold everybody else back. You have to have a race-winning car with the format we have now for the chase in order to win this championship. Let's take a look at Truex's numbers since 1999. Obviously, he didn't make his debut in 1999. That's as long as the track's actually been open. Truex has made a total of 10 starts in his career at Homestead. Average finish of 10th across the board, in even 10th place. Of those 10 starts, 9 of them have finished inside the top 20. 7 of them have finished inside the top 10, and 3 of those have finished inside the top 5. Obviously, no victories. 108 laps led. Alright, so he has led laps here, but not in the last 2 years. At Texas, at Phoenix, we never saw him get up to the front and dominate a race. It's going to be very interesting for Truex, because are they holding something back? I don't know. But if they are, we're all in for a big surprise. And let's also keep in mind, too, just let's be perfectly honest here, Martin Truex Jr. one win this season came at Pocono, which is considered a fuel mileage racetrack. And I don't want to throw Martin Truex Jr.'s season under the bus, but we look at his stats this year. 1 victory, but in 36 starts, only 8 top 5s? That, to me, Well, actually 35 starts, I should say. Only 8 top 5s. I find that so ironic. I also find that as a huge barrier that Truex has to overcome. To me, that states that Martin Truex Jr. this season has been consistent. He's been a top 10 driver, but he's not been championship winning caliber. Believe me, I'm perfectly fine with Truex making the Final Four. However, do I think, and this is in my honest opinion, do I think Martin Truex Jr. is taking up a spot in the Final Four and isn't going to be able to really do anything with it? Yes, I actually do. I don't think Martin Truex Jr. is going to be the dark horse sleeper battling for this championship that everybody is expecting. I don't see it in the numbers. I don't see it in his past performances at Texas, at Phoenix. If he had been up there battling for the lead those past 2 weeks, whether he won or not, then yeah, I'd say, okay, this team is going to be able to be up there. He'll be able to battle with the 4. He'll be able to battle with the 18. He'll be able to battle with the 24, but I don't see that. I see him running 5th through 10th, which in this kind of chase format is not going to cut it in him being able to win the championship. They'll have a great closeout to the season, I think, but they're not going to be the champions. Had Carl Edwards been in, I want to just throw this out here too, okay? If Martin Truex Jr. is taking valuable space up for another driver that could battle for the championship, that driver would be Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards eliminated 5 points out due to the rain delayed, or the rain called Phoenix race. But let's take a look at Carl Edwards' numbers. In his last 2 starts, Carl Edwards has had a little bit of hardship. 23rd place average finish. But the thing that stood out to me was based off of his career stats since the track has had Sprint Cup Series races. Kevin Harvick, we already stated, had a 7th place average finish in 14 starts. Carl Edwards is the next highest on that average finish list of 9th. Alright, 11 starts, 2 victories, 5 top 10s, 5 top 5s, 7 top 10s. Here's the thing that stood out the most to me. Alright, of the active drivers currently running in the Sprint Cup Series, Carl Edwards has led the most laps at 560. Tony Stewart is close second with 450, but Carl Edwards over 500 laps led in 11 starts. Look at Kevin Harvick, 14 starts, only a little under 200 laps led. That is a huge telling tale. And based off of the fact that people will say, well, that was when Carl Edwards was racing for Roush Fenway Racing, which obviously are, like, back when it was Edwards and Kenseth and Mark Martin and Greg Biffle. Yeah, that was the team. That was the team back then. But Carl Edwards is driving right now for another superpower team, Joe Gibbs Racing, in which all 4 drivers have gone to victory lane. Kyle Busch has been to victory lane 4 times. Carl Edwards twice. Denny Hamlin twice, and Matt Kenseth. Trying to find Matt here on the board, and I, for some reason, cannot find him. I'm pretty sure Matt Kenseth has 5 victories. I might be wrong. I'm looking to confirm. 5 victories, yes indeed. So you can't say they haven't been a dominating team. To me, Kyle Busch is having to pick up the slack because Carl Edwards is eliminated. Kyle Busch is the guy that's going to have to hound Kevin Harvick. But if Carl Edwards had made it in, he would have definitely been a contender. You weigh it in the balance between Carl Edwards and Martin Truex Jr., Carl Edwards would definitely be the championship contender. Carl Edwards was the, quote, unofficial champion, if you will, back in 2011 when he tied with Tony Stewart in points in the season finale. But it came down to Tony Stewart's 5 wins as opposed to Carl Edwards' 1 victory, and that's how Tony Stewart ended up winning the 2011 Sprint Cup Series championship. So to me, it's looking like it's going to be Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Jeff Gordon, Martin Truex Jr. That's how they're going to finish. Well, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We'll be having another episode hopefully tomorrow morning, Maybe I'll have a guest on here too. If you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know down in the comments. This is merely a talk show where I state my opinions. Doesn't mean they are fact unless they are backed up by facts presented by NASCAR, J-Ski, or any other site like that. So thanks, guys, for watching. And we will see you for the continuation of this week as we continue to bring coverage of Championship Week that will be coming up at Homestead-Miami Speedway this coming weekend here on Nnscra Radio in the 1620 CBM Studios booth in Nelliston, New York.